Hi everyone, this is Ansky and today we'll talk about classes. This is our fourth session and it's incredibly simple concept. However, many people make it a bit confusing. I'll do my best to make it as simple as possible. So let's talk about what actually classes are. Imagine you have a cooking book, any cooking book that you can imagine, and you have multiple different recipes. Recipes would be effectively like methods. As you've probably seen already on the previous video, they're just effectively like a set of instructions for our computer to do a very specific task. Maybe, for example, add two values, print some messages, or anything else. Now, classes would be effectively like a book that stores all of those pages. It can also be like a box that stores different items in it. Now, reason why we create classes is many different things. One of the things is we can reuse those classes, we can reuse this code. We could effectively, if I create, let's say, imagine a class that will always welcome to the bank, this class could effectively be used across many different projects inside my bank. So imagine that I have 5 different apps in my bank and they all do different things. Maybe some of them offer credits, maybe some of them offer ATM transactions, maybe some of them talk about opening a business and so many different things. Now, each one of them would obviously have to greet our customer into our bank. And this is where our class, that would be effectively just greeting our customer, be used in many different projects. It's the same script that we've wrote already, it's the same code, and the only thing we have to do is just import it across different projects and be able to use them. Another thing as well is that it also provides some sort of a security, like different methods in this class. We can ensure that only specific methods will be visible to the entire project and rest would be effectively only in this class. Now, the way that it works, for example, is Java has multiple classes that makes it available to us. We can use people's codes. We can also create our own classes, which is our own scripts. Now, Java, for example, java.util has hundreds of different examples. Now, you've seen we've used random before already, and if you look into it, we could effectively share those classes with other people. And that's pretty much it. So let's dive quickly right into talking about how we can create those classes, how can you create your own classes to be able to use them in many different projects. And we will be using actually the classes that we're creating already, we'll be using in upcoming projects as well. And yeah, if you do have any questions, ask me. Otherwise, let's go.
Okay, so we're gonna firstly start with functions that are already provided to us by Java. So some of them we already used. As an example, string is technically an object, but also it has effectively a class. Class is effectively just an object. So if I, for example, right click over here and this string and press go to and implementations, it's going to take us to the page made just for string. So if I look up over here, there's some imports and then we can see public final class string. We'll look into what the final is in the future, but effectively what we care, as we can see, is that it says public class string. Now it has many different variables, including different methods as well for us. So whenever, for example, we are trying to use something or put something over here, it will choose whichever method we are aiming to actually use and then do implementation that is done inside. Java allows us to see this. It's an open code. We can see everything that is happening. And in the future, as you kind of get more comfortable with coding, you could actually look into how are things specifically made. Sometimes you would actually find yourself looking through some of those documentations in order to be able to find a specific way of doing something that you know has been done before. Another type of class like this would be random that we also used last time. So if I open it, implementations, and then we have many different classes where random was used or more of like created. The one that we're interested in is random java.util. If I open this, once again, we can see published class random, and we can see many different ones over here as well. So now what we'll do is we'll continue on creating our own class. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new script. So if I right click over here and I put the Java class over here, so I can put Java class. Let me run this. Now I can choose a class interface record in annotations. This is instead of the class. I told you there are multiple ones, and we're going to touch upon all of them in the future. But for now, we just choose class, and let's just name it. Maybe greetings, okay? Or maybe welcome messages. If I press enter, it will, as you can see, create a new file called welcome messages, and we have a public class welcome messages. It's our new book. It's empty. It's completely empty. There's nothing in there. So let's create our new function. So if I write public and I write static and I write void, yeah, greet user. Okay, and we're gonna pass over here, as we said before, we're gonna pass the name, and we're gonna say over here, South, welcome to the bank of, and then we're just gonna pass. Actually, let's just put the welcome, put the name, and then put to the bank. Okay, something like this. That's it. So this is simple method. What you'll do, you will go to this class, you will run this method greet user, pass a name, and we'll just print welcome, whatever the name is, to the bank. Now, if I go to main, if I type over here string name, if you think about it, there is no way for welcome messages to know about this name, right? So this is the one thing that I was telling you about the different houses. There's no way that our neighbor, so this is our, those are neighbors. There's no way the welcome messages know what's happening over here, inside here. So this is why the neighbor trusts us. We're gonna give him the name. So let's do this part. Okay, so firstly, you remember the public. I told you, if we type the public, if I do right now welcome messages, right? And I put a dot, we have the methods. So first you have to put the class name. So which file are we referring to? Whichever file you want to refer to. So in this case, we are referring to welcome messages. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to put the dot, and this is going to show all of the methods there is. So this is M, stands for method, which is greet user. And then we can put our name. So what this will do is we'll go firstly into this file, welcome messages. You'll find the method called greet user, and do whatever it's supposed to do with the name that we pass. So if we run, it's going to be exactly the same. Welcome Alex to the bank. Perfect, right? If we jump back welcome messages, we can create another method, static void, and maybe let's say display balance. And let's just say put int amount, okay? And let's just say, so you have plus amount plus on your account, like this, okay? If we go back to main, we can once again do welcome messages, and then let's say display balance, and just put any value we like. Let's pay £200 as an example, or 200 US dollars. As I say, you have 200 on your bank account. Now, if I'm gonna say over here, private static void, and let's say maybe interest rate, and say int amount, and we're gonna run over here. Let's open the book and just say system. Sorry, south. The current interest rate is, and then it just place amount, and then we just make a dot at the end. Perfect. Okay. If I am going to run welcome messages and put a dot, as you can see, it's not visible over here. We can only have display balance greet user. The reason for that is because those are public, which means they can be seen. But private cannot be seen, which means private only welcome message knows this method exists. No other scripts will understand, or no other files will know that this method exists. Why should we do this? Because there's something cool part about it. Imagine I don't change this. Okay, so we have just display balance. If we go over here, we can put in display balance. So in this method, we can put another enter. We can just call it the interest rate, just like this. Okay. If I run this right now, what you'll see, you'll go to welcome messages display balance, you'll go over here, you'll print this one out, and then you'll run into this method. So you jump into interest rate, print this one out, get back over here, realize this is the end, jump back to the main. Okay, just for visual purposes, we're gonna write the end. So let's run this and let's see. Welcome Ice to the bank. We jump from over here to the greet username. You have £200 on your bank account. The current interest rate is 5%, and the end. And this is the cool thing, right? we cannot access the interest rate on our own. Only our welcome messages can do this. So only our welcome messages knows about this method. This is amazing when it comes to the security. If there is a files or like specific variables that you have and you don't want everyone else to know, you can stick them as private and no one will be able to see them except yourself. So except the script. Okay, one of the things that I was kind of mentioning about this, which I find is kind of important as well. So let's just create void, not void, sorry, int, return age, and then let's just put int age, and then return age. Okay. One, if I try to type south and I try to put interest rate, it's gonna give us an error. The reason for that is because this does not return anything. It's void. It means it doesn't return a string, it doesn't return an age, it doesn't return anything. We cannot print nothing because when it comes to the program, so when it comes to Java, what this understands, whenever it says void, it just means run through all of the lines and that's it. So for this one, for our console, it means this doesn't exist. But if I were to type, instead of interest rate, I would put return age and put 5, this will work perfectly. Because what it does, we are returning the age. Okay, so it jumps over here, it passes the 5, and then we're returning the 5. So we know that at the end, after it comes back, there will be a 5 over here. So this one will be just changed to 5. Okay, that's all. This will make more kind of logical sense as we kind of progress a bit further in the future into jumping those. So I know this was a very extensive way of explaining classes and methods, but this should give you a very good idea on how to create methods and how to create classes and how we're going to use them. This will also mean that it will help us in the future to create much better codes because solid principles as an example is heavily based on creating as many methods as we can and as many classes as we can but as little code as possible. Okay, so as a quick preview, it effectively means that each method or each class should be doing one thing and one thing only. We shouldn't have one class that deals, for example, with everything. One class shouldn't be dealing with greeting messages, with calculating of, for example, bank account, returning the bank account, giving us options, taking user options and stuff. It shouldn't do all of this. It should do only one thing at one time. And this is kind of what we're going to cover in the future. But this is why we went so extensively into this, because we needed to understand what public and private means, what static means, what void int string means and stuff like this, names, and we also had to cover very heavily on the parameters. Okay, so this is kind of one of the reasons why we went so deeply. I hope this helps. I really do. And one of the things what I want you to do as your challenge is, so let me just write over here, challenge. You will have to create a banking system. So not really a banking system, but effectively, or maybe just create a customer system. This can be in the bank or this can be in the restaurant. So for example, whenever we have a customer who, for example, has to give his name, we need to welcome him. We need to give him his, for example, bank balance. And we need to say goodbye to him. And let's say we also want to give him special offers or something like that. Okay, so just any special offers. Now, before this kind of makes so simple, I want him to special offers. It can be just anything. You can say your interest rate. Normally the interest rate is 5%, you get 10%, okay? This should be in different class. This should be in a different class. And this should be in a different class. So this one class where welcoming is messages. Okay, so we can call the class A, class B, class A, and class C. All of those should be different methods. Okay, that's all. And this one should be in the main. So it's very, very similar to what we've done today, but it takes a bit of more time to kind of go around it and try to figure out whether you should use public, whether you should use whether you should private, whether you should int, string, and many different things like that. So have fun, good luck. I hopefully this helped you a lot. Subscribe if you have any questions, do please ask, and I'll see you soon.